Sure. Y'all saw, y'all saw nothing as far as it. Man, this dog loves to interrupt everything I do. Anyway, what's up, bros? I'm the professor, and I want to just talk about the hype about the solar eclipse that's in a few days. It'll be happening this week. Okay, it's all cool how they have connected the dots with all these conspiracy theories because it's all passing through Nineveh, like all these places called Nineveh. Well, I'm going to go back in time with you about 23, 24 years ago. I was in Germany, and let's see, there was a solar eclipse, a complete, total solar eclipse that passed over Germany where we were. And the a complete total solar eclipse passed over us, and it was like the middle of the day, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Now we're in the end of times and all that stuff, but really, these are cool dots they've connected. But if anything happens, it isn't because God did anything. It's because somebody is doing stuff to us pretty regularly. If you're not aware of that, you have your head in the sand right now. But someone is definitely doing these. These are attacks on the United States. So if anything does happen, just know that they did it. Okay? If anybody says anything otherwise, they're because no man knows the day or time the Son of Man cometh. Nobody knows when the Lord Jesus is returning. He may have already come and gone. We are just the cavemen living in this leftover society of the last civilization. We're just the pig farmers that don't know how to operate machinery. None of us know how to even live or wear clothes. All those old photos you see, those are people that are staged and photographed and posing for history. Even the war photos from the Civil War, you see all the people dead laying on the ground. Gettysburg, all the places that they blew up, all of that is posing for history. All of it. So I read sorry, it was an old book from 1912, and it was the story of the Panama Canal, and it was how the United States systematically took the Panama Canal from the French after they were devastated by the yellow fever. Now, the yellow fever, this was, by the way, an account that was written by a man who was a Chicago police officer who decided to be a passport bro and move to Panama and become part of the Census Bureau. He didn't speak Spanish. He just went down on a wing and a prayer, thought it'd be kind of fun, and he spent a total of 3 years down here. And he worked for the Census Bureau, and he learned and he saw historical things that this is a book that was written in 1912. It was right as they were finishing the Panama Canal. And this is, by the way, a true story. This is not this was such a good story that it was almost too accurate, having lived in Panama, to know these places exist. So, and this brings me back to why I'm predicting this now. Okay, I lived in Panama. I saw the relics of the old stuff. I know the Smithsonian has been there to cover up stuff. So anytime you see the movement of the Smithsonian in any particular historical or ancient area, you know they're doing some fuckery. They're covering stuff up for whatever reason. This makes no sense to anybody. Why you would cover up history knowing how fascinating it would be to everybody. Well, partially it's the conspiracy that it's because the oil companies won't make any money after they figure out that we can light up our houses using stuff that's non-toxic, that's not dangerous, it's not going to burn the fucking house down. And they wouldn't want that. So that's one, which is kind of ridiculous at this point. I mean, radium was used in every product that we had in our household. Even the stickers, the stars that you stick on the ceiling that are glowy, that material used to be abundant and was in all products made in the United States. But they said it was radioactive and it caused cancer, and which was not true. They knew that you could light up your house safely and you could heat your home with this stuff safely. That's why if you look at any of the old houses from the that are from prior to electricity, a lot of the stoves, a lot of the fireplaces don't have chimneys, and you're thinking to yourself, well, how the hell is that possible for a fireplace to not have a chimney? Where's the exhaust going to go? Well, when you use radium heated the whole house, and you didn't need any type of regulation at all, none. But they made this stuff impossible to get. They, like I said, going back to they again. Who the fuck are they? You notice that when there are new inventions, there's always, boy, I hope one day they invent this. You know, one day they ought to come out with something like that. Who the hell are they? Who the hell are they? We're the ones that invent everything. We are the they when it comes to all these stories of how to make stuff run without electricity, run without gasoline. I mean, I've always considered, air being as abundant as it is and easier to pressurize, why it is we can't come up with a perpetual system that allows us to, let's say, drive a motorcycle that's run by air, that pumps itself up and then fucking accelerates, and it pumps itself up again and accelerates. Why have we done away with airships and blimps? Airships, man, dude, they used to have like turbo engines on them, huge like living rooms. Could you imagine a time when you could fly your own house from one country to another? The cool thing was that these things had some sort of electricity because they had electrodes on the points, and they used to always butt up to the skyscrapers for some reason. And when the skyscrapers or the big churches had the spires on the roof, they always touched the spires to the front of the blimps. And whatever the hell they were doing, these are things that we don't know anymore. Meaning that electricity and stuff like that, all the combustion engines and so on, they've basically deleted these bits of information that to you and I would seem almost common sense. You know what my favorite lock is? You don't want to know what my favorite lock? My favorite YouTuber guy, by the way, is a locksmith. I think he's called the locksmith lawyer or something like that. And anyway, this guy talks about locks and legalities and things like that. But what he does is he talks about all the different types of locks made for houses, like door locks for bathrooms and door locks for the front door and things like that. And then he talks about padlocks. And see, padlocks are as a person in the locksmith industry would say, the only reason for padlocks is to keep honest men honest. To keep honest men, that is the reason for locks. Now, imagine that you lived in a world, go in fantasy world with me for a minute. Imagine you lived in a world that didn't just not need locks on doors, so no one would come and break in and steal anything, but you would have no doors in your home. Like absolutely nothing. Like obviously you'd have some screens up or something to keep bugs out, but for no security reasons, because on the level of respect that I care for other people and the level of care that I think most human beings have for each other in general, if someone is in danger or there's a dog in the street about to get run over or whatever, people are generally pretty nice. But there's always that one or two or three in a crowd of 10 that always have that evil intentions. And when I talk about things that I predict, these are things that I predicted in the 90s, including what I'm about to tell you. So the 1990s, I was very, very messed up from the war. And when I returned, I was a shattered mess of a man. And anybody who knows me now knows I'm not the same person that I was 20 years ago. And they know that their perception of me might be that oh, this guy's nuts, or he's lost some marbles or whatever. Even my own son was told, because he doesn't know anything about me, I've never met the kid. When I finally talked to him after 22 years of alienation from him, he lives in Germany, by the way, and his mom was Turkish. So she told him that I was a paranoid schizophrenic. Now, I wasn't sure because I had never heard that before. I was like, wow, somebody gave me a diagnosis I wasn't aware of. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, how do schizophrenics and paranoid people behave in public? Now, most people know anything about schizophrenics. They live like in a fantasy world, so to speak. They have conversations with people that aren't there. They live out like whole lifetimes in a fantasy world. So indirectly, so I go and I look at the word, and because of the fact that I've been able to like successfully predict every single tragic thing and bad thing, including all the way up to the coronavirus, including, but I'm about to tell you, since 1992, every single one of them's come true. And people called me nuts. Like I said, this is in 1994 when CD-ROMs were like the craze for putting into the Pentium 2, I think it was. We had just gone from 8086 computers to Pentium 1s to Pentium 2s. And I was in civil engineering, you guys know, in Germany. And I was very curious at the time because computers were a new thing. You didn't have home computers. But I had foreseen home computers before there were computers. I had foreseen Netflix before there was Netflix. And so my prediction from Netflix was this. Actually, I think it may have gone a step further than Netflix because there was no Blockbuster in existence at the time. There was videotape places that you could rent videotapes from. And the first VCR tape recorder, I guess it was, popped up on top, or you could feed it in from the front. Those were the first VCRs. So you would go to a store and you would browse all these titles and you'd see the box and you'd see the title and you'd read the back. And sometimes they'd have like the corno areas and have like a curtain and you'd go back there if you like that stuff. And you'd rent these for the day and you'd have to rewind them. And if they weren't rewound, they would charge you a fee. And so the first VCRs, because we were only accustomed to television at the time, we had black and white TV, then we had color TV, and then there was like, they used to be these giant pieces of furniture in your house, gone on to become what they are today, the flat screen little bitty TVs. So what I had predicted, I was a little boy at the time, and I said to somebody that we were just talking about going to rent VCR tapes in a movie store or whatever, a tape store, whatever they were called at the time. And this is before Blockbuster. I said, well, why don't we make something like put tubes that go from, because I'm a kid, that's the only way I could describe my vision that I'm looking at. We could put tubes going from the pseudo Blockbuster video and then pipe it to everybody's house so that anytime anybody wants to watch a movie, they'll just call the video store and they'll say, hey, I want to watch this movie. And they'll go, okay. And they'll go over to the VCR that's connected to your house. And they'll go from the library and put it into the VCR that'll be piped to your house. Which hence became what would be the original Netflix. But then they started mailing out, they actually used to mail out the DVDs in the old days of Netflix. And then it went to streaming. So what I had saw was not just libraries of movies in one place being piped to homes on demand, but I also saw education as a waste of time because anybody who was born in North America or went to a North American school, now, if you have not discovered, is that they systematically dumbed everybody down. The textbooks, all of the language used that's in the Black's Law Dictionary is actually in a lot of the old textbooks prior to 1970. If you can get your hands on stuff that was from the 40s or 50s, you'll find that there is education in there that on a fourth grade level in 1950 would be the 12th grade level of today. Just to wrap your fucking head around that. So what I am explaining to you guys is that what I'm seeing is my vision as a kid, explaining Netflix to you, explaining what I saw as a kid in real time. We're going to go to four-wheel steering on everything. They're going to make our cars slower. They're going to make our cars slow like forklift slow to drive around in public. Then, if we want to get on a certain highway, they're going to magnetize all our cars to go fucking like 300 miles an hour to go to a different place. I visualized this as a 12-year-old boy to the point where I actually wrote a patent for a poor man's patent to the patent office for four-wheel steering and what was called, I called it the inertia overcomer. 2 months later, Honda had come out with that same technology. So just so you guys know, I get these things in flashes. I'm not saying I'm a prophet. I'm not saying anything like that or I'm psychic. What I'm saying is I get these cool ideas and then they come. And so what I'm telling you guys that's happening right now that may or may not be evident or self-evident to some of you guys is that every single thing that's happened in the last 2 years has been a theatrical setup. The theatrical setup. I'm not talking about coronavirus. We knew that was. We've already discovered that was all horseshit. It was all bullshit. There was no fucking epidemic. There was no pandemic. It was all to fucking give everybody shots. That's why they're putting it into foods now. Because they want to delete people that don't mean shit to these people. Because the elites on a scale that, say me as a rich person, I am living in a castle. I'm over 600 people. And I'm a commander of 3 brigades in 3 different counties. So I'm a very powerful guy that knows a lot of powerful people who have lots of money and shit like that. Shit that I reject. Shit that I turn away from. Because I refuse to be under the thumb of any government that's going to lie and force people to take injections that aren't required, especially for children. And the second thing that I had predicted is that when political correctness came in the form of what was called Quality Air Force. Quality Air Force was a theme that the atheists in the 1990s had not been successful in convincing people that there was no God. They clowned the churches. They installed these stupid preachers that all they talked about was money. And what do people only think about? Money and relationships. What were these jackasses doing? Fucking dudes, getting caught, doing drugs and meth and shit. So clowns, they clowned out the churches so no one wants to go back to church. Then the few faithful that did stick around the churches were raised by single mothers. And they catered to single mothers. Now you go to the churches and it's nothing but single mothers. And they don't talk about sin. They don't talk about hell. They talk about living your best life. And listen, all of these things that have been shown to us that are easily accessible are all lies from the devil. The devil can only do one thing, and that's kill, steal, and destroy. That's one thing, 3 things. Kill, steal, and destroy. And you can narrow it all down to envy, how he affects human beings. He made it possible. See, he can't come in here unless I let him. Okay? I give the devil no place in my house. I give the devil no place in my audience of friends, my audience of people who really are serious about God now. Okay? Because this wasn't like this shit before, you guys. No, we were rejecting God because of the way that the church was portrayed in the 1980s and 90s. It was portrayed because they wanted to sabotage the church. They wanted to sabotage Jesus, take away the power of Jesus and say that it was, it's make believe and all that stuff. So whatever, believe what you want. I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to be a rebel in a world of foolishness because the world is ruled by the devil. Even the Bible says so. This world is ruled by the devil. It is. And the fact that if there's only one of us in 1,000 who stand for God, who stand for Christ, those are the guys that are going to get the fucking worst treatment. Because if God is real, the devil is not going to fight against guys who don't believe in God. He's going to fight against the people who do. And why I say this eclipse is important is because it is causing people, just like in the 1990s, to do some self-reflection and think that, I wonder if this is the end of the world. What happens to me after I die? Well, let me help you with that. We have a relationship with God via the Lord Jesus Christ through the blood of a sacrificed lamb, which would have been him. He was nailed to the cross for our sins, laid in a tomb, and 3 days later rose from the dead. And that in and of itself, because this was the end of magic, this was the end of an angelic time in the world. And there was this thing that supposedly is supposed to happen in the book of Revelations. The word doesn't come up. And that is that the end of times, Jesus will meet all of his people in the air. He will call forth every Christian for himself to come to be by his side. And by Abraham's side in heaven. The world is in too much pain. The world is in too much anger. The world is in too much deviation and degeneracy for it to survive any longer. And if there is a supernatural being in space that I like to call God, he gave his son so we could have a relationship with him, and it wouldn't be just all my good works. Look how good person I am. I am a good person. You guys know I'm a good person. I would die before I let anything bad happen to you. Especially if you came to Mexico. You know what I mean? People are always like worried about, oh, I would hate to go down to Mexico and get kidnapped. Well, motherfucker, why would you be in a position that you would get kidnapped? Why would I put you in a position of danger if you came to Mexico, to visit? Why would I allow you to go to that area that guaranteed that you're going to have problems? I would only bring you to a place that is of safety and of comfort and of good times. Not of scary shit that you got to look around behind your back all the time. Fuck that. Why would God put us in a position of having to always be afraid? Because we stopped trusting in him a long time ago. People ask me, I think I got 57,000 likes on one comment, on one thing about people being scared of going outside. I said, nah, what you need to do is put on the full armor of God. And when you leave your house, be mindful of the fact that because you stand before, you are the representation of a connected Most High God, the source to which the sorcery comes from. Source, hello, source-uri. The source is God via Jesus Christ. His blood is upon us. Now we have superpowers. So when I cry out to God with my problems, I don't cry out to kids and women and stuff like that. When I cry out to God with my problems, it creates an actual reaction in the time-space realm or whatever the hell it is that's happening right now. But it has given me superpowers. It has given me an ability to see the future. It's given me an ability to ask for anything whatsoever, and I get it. Even the most stupid things. Even the stupidest things. Guys, see right here? Look at that right there. I want you to see something. You see that? That's just a regular wall switch, okay? Yeah, big deal, right? Big deal wall switch. Got a wall switch, light switch that plugs into the cell phone and stuff like that, right? Okay, so y'all been to Home Depot and bought things like this before, right? Sure. So I'm renovating this castle because it's never had, fancy stuff in it, over 100 years, and everything's stripped out of it. So I have to buy 5 of these light switches because I obviously don't want to live in candlelight. I need to have light switches in my house. And so as I'm sitting in my house, I'm in Mexico City. I have to go to Home Depot to go buy all this stuff to send to the electrician and all this stuff. And I go and I look it up, but damn it, if the Luminar, whatever the hell it's, the fancy stuff, that has the dimmer switches and everything, these things are like $15 a piece. I'm like, what? I'm not going to spend $15 on light switches. Screw all that. So in my mind's eye, I see a man sitting in front of what we would call it, Oxo. You would call it 7-Eleven. I see a man sitting in front, and he has a giant blanket sitting in front. And I've seen this man before several times in my subconscious mind going on the subway, going from to and from in Mexico City. So I see him passing by. When I pass by the subway, I see the 7-Eleven store, and then my house is around the corner. I have an Airbnb in Mexico City, by the way, guys, and it's booked 365 days a year because it's that hot of an apartment. So for any of you guys that were asking me, you know, how do you make money when you live overseas? What you do is you get a contract through your LLC or through your foundation, and you rent an office building. And that would become your Airbnb. You put it in a contract, that's how you make money. I'm going to stop talking about that. So I'm around the corner from my house, exiting the subway. And in my mind's eye, I'm saying, I am not going to pay Home Depot, no, $15 for 5 of these stupid light switches. It's ridiculous. So in my mind's eye, I'm thinking, that man sitting in front of that 7-Eleven on the ground, he not only has the luminous switches that I want, he has the color that I want, because I didn't want low high pro glow white, you know, crap. I didn't want it to look plasticky because this is an old building, you know what I'm saying? I wanted it to look fancy a little bit. So I walked by, and in my mind's eye, no joke, guys, no joke, no joke, every single one of those switches, every single one of them, I needed a double switch, I needed a double socket with the switch, I needed a dimmer switch, and they all needed to be this color right here, this switch right here. Dude, guys, they were 50 cents a piece, and they were brand new. Now, that is just one example of many stupid things that happen, guys, to the point which I'm so overwhelmed that I actually could cry sometimes, because I foresee the future. And the reason why I invite people to come to Mexico from the States to visit, at least get your passport and find somewhere to go that could be safe, is because I foresee the collapse of the United States, and it's not because of a fucking eclipse. Okay? They're going to release poisons, and they're not even going to hide it. They're going to do stuff to... They've already fucked with the infrastructure and found, oh, they're very resilient people. Guess that didn't do it. But what they did was they were testing your reality. What they were doing by crashing all those trains wasn't saying, oh, look at this infrastructure, these people are so bad about taking care of things. It isn't because of the planes crashing down and then blaming some CEO for, you know, wearing a dress half the time. It isn't because of that stuff. These are all just episodes in a novella. Guys, if you don't know what a novella is, do you know what a novella is? It's a Mexican soap opera that is so ridiculous that you would wonder what fucking kid in the 4th grade wrote this shit. Okay? The dumb dad jokes and the ridiculous over-the-top fucking racism and hatred of darker people in their own country and their own language and their own people. It's absurd. So when I see a novella that has, like, you know, over-the-top fucking just hateful fucking cowboy narco guy with his hateful girlfriend just, you know, it's not here, and they're so fucking mean to their workers, that it shows me that there's a level of insanity above corruption that makes this stuff too fucking weird to make up. And as if Kevin Samuels would have said, you just can't make this shit up. It's because the level of delusion throughout the world, and guys, I am not just talking about the US. I am not just talking about those poor people that have been implanted deliberately into positions of power. It's mostly black women that are put to those positions of power so that if they fall or they need a fall guy, they've got somebody to look stupid. That's why I say that be suspicious. Look at the president of Harvard. Okay, I could not get into Harvard. Okay, I could not have gotten into Harvard if I wanted to. I was a mediocre student in high school. I was fortunate enough to pass the ASVAB, go in the military, and say, yeah, I win. Okay, but for those of us who could not get into college for whatever reason, and I'm not getting on the bandwagon of just because he was black. I'm getting on the bandwagon that says that they put an imposter in position to hold a political position in a prestigious Ivy League school, so that in the event some shit of their fuckery got caught, they would find somebody that they would not just not put in jail or have serious problems because it was a political pawn. They put these poor women into positions of authority so that they could deliberately hijack and sabotage the system, then make, check it out, she wasn't just black, she wasn't just a woman, she was also a lesbian and a president of an Ivy League college, of all things. Then they come to find out that she was an agent, she was implanted there, all of her credentials are horseshit, all of the work that's being done by her are done by assistants and AI. So I'm looking at like, hell, I could go fucking apply, go at Brown. For all my friends who couldn't get into Harvard, that's why people go to Harvard, because they can't get into Brown. So now we live in this delusional fantasy fucking world. We can all go to Brown and we can all go to Harvard, with the education of a fucking third grade reader. So knowing that and having been in this position for this long and have seen this much fuckery for the last 3, 4, 5 years, now that it's public, what the hell? Every time it gets flat, it's damn true. So, what do I say about the eclipse at this point? Listen, it is just another day that ends in Y. Okay, there is nothing special about this particular thing. If anybody makes anything about it, yay, there's a dragon comet flying in between, Jupiter and the sun. Listen, all of these things, these major events that have happened from all the way back from World War I, the Titanic, World War II, Pearl Harbor, Vietnam, the Gulf of Tonkin, all the fakery in the Gulf War, all the shit that happened in 9/11, all the stuff with coronavirus and every stupid shit in between has all been done by whoever the fuck they are. So all these things have now been revealed. All these things now anything that is going to happen, predictably, now all of you can predict it. Okay, now I'm no longer the only one who can predict the future. All of you now can predict the future. All of you. Every single person within an earshot of me now can simply take their fucking eyes, open their eyes big enough, zoom out, and then you will suddenly discover that if this is all a setup, just like theater. And you could take it all back to 2 movies if you're a real movie buff. You could look at Fight Club as one of them. And look at the reality of Fight Club. When at the very, very end you figure out who everybody is and what everything really was and who really did what. At the end of Fight Club, we're now at the end of Fight Club, fellas. Okay? We are at the end of Fight Club. But right before the guy blows his brains out and blows up the building and resets the whole world, he realizes that his alter ego is really him. His alter ego, that every single characteristic about him he loved. And every single thing about that characteristic that he loved despised the thing about that weak man that he had become. So he was a man looking in a mirror at a man he liked. Looking at a man he liked who hated the man he perceived himself to be. A guy that shopped, who bought stuff because he wanted to be like everybody else. He wanted a fancy apartment. He wanted all these things, this stuff. And this is similar to what's happening to most of us men right now, is that we're having an aha moment and God strikes again. So he's getting rid of the nasty women in our life and we keep running back to the trash pile recycling. He wants to give us new opportunities, but we're too fucking lazy to get our tools out and say, you know what? I need to do 2 things. I need to Google Maps. I need to advertise my business as a XYZ carpenter service. Yesterday, a guy called me and said, hey, Listen, man, I know you don't work or anything, but I know that you're an engineer. And I got a gas leak in my house, and I'm like, what? Hold up a minute. So I fucking go over his house with a pair of channel locks. He didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, doesn't know how to use tools. Shut that shit off. And then I call the guys at the fire department to go do a tank transfer because you could change the gas from one tank to another if you got a leak. And I was just like, you know what I mean? It sometimes when you make plans, God says, ha! And this thing flying over might just get your attention. But I mean, it's just another day that ends in Y. Okay? So it is another day that ends in Y. Wouldn't you all be surprised is to wake up from a dream one day and you look around and people are looking at you and you're looking at them. You're sitting in a dentist chair. You just had dental surgery, and while you were out, knocked out, you lived 50 years in another life. How would you feel right now if I told you, all of you listening to me, that right now you're sleeping, that I'm part of your dream. I'm part of your subconscious mind, the deepest, deepest, deepest part of your subconscious mind that has you totally convinced that you're seeing me in 1048p. You believe that right now because you are so deeply involved and entrenched in the deepest of dreams or coma-like states that are so real. And the reason is because you are really not here. Okay, you're hearing my voice. I am just vibration. That's all you're seeing right now. Part of your eyes is part of your brain. If your brain can tell you reality from non-reality, your eyes are going to lie to you and tell you whatever your brain tells you, not what your eyes tell you. It doesn't work that way. The brain tells the eyes what to see. Not eyes don't tell the brain what to see. And so if you're seeing and you're hearing me right now, you're experiencing something pretty amazing. I'm just telling you guys, just from a cool, think about Total Recall. Okay, he went in. He's like, they say, okay, you're gonna take these pills, and you're gonna go into a sleepy sleep, and you're gonna have the best adventure as a super spy on Mars, and then you're gonna wake up and go back to your normal life, and everything's gonna be cool. But before he gets to that point, he's in the chair. He hasn't taken the pills. He's not in the other life yet. Suddenly realizes is that he is the super spy. He is on Mars, and all these people are his enemy. And so the total recall takes place later on when he recalls his other life. And that is his subconscious mind. He's incognito. He doesn't know that he's this other person, Quaid or whatever he is. So he's living his mind and his body. When he looks in the mirror, he sees somebody else. He sees himself, but it's not him. It's the imaginary self with the big muscles and the square jaw, living the superstar actor life and has a hot wife, living on Mars in a fancy apartment. And he gets paid big money, and he gets to ride around in taxis and limousines and stuff and bang chicks with 3 boobs. So, yes, there's quite a bit of parallel to the stupid shit that we're seeing in the world right now that is so bizarre and so off the charts that a human being would actually consider doing this to his own people, to his own countrymen, and to destroy jobs, to put people in jail for speaking out, and closing people's bank accounts and fucking with their lives using the agencies to do so. Is clear to me that this is some kind of fever dream. That the world that we once lived in and knew and saw and existed in, that was that sad music from those 80s throwback fucking videos that you see on Instagram. Those are real heart. They pulled your heartstring. Talk about the fucking 80s and shit. God, I hate this fucking thing. They're so awesome. Looking at Ataris for the first time and blowing out the cassettes. You see, guys, we don't live in that world anymore. We're analog people now in a digital age. And now they could easily delete our past as if it never happened. Now they can delete us as if we never were. Now they can put us into comas and then put us into sleep as if it was an accident. So you follow me, guys? The reason why we need an eclipse of the heart, the eclipse of turning away from degeneracy and turning toward Lord Jesus Christ daily. And I'm just going to tell you guys, just the easiest way to start doing this is to stop lying. Because that was the gateway for me to stop lying. Because most of you guys are already saved. You already accepted Christ as your Savior and you were a little boy. That is not good. Just because you were a jackass the last 20, 30 years doesn't make you not saved. It just means that you have run away from God on a treadmill, standing in place. He's been there the whole time, but your dumbass thinks, oh, I could do better. I want to get out here and be bad. I want to go do hood fucking shit with my friends. That's what I did for stuff for fucking 20-something years. Got me locked up 19 times and damn near got me killed. Doing hood stuff as an adult. And you think to yourself, there's no way, Professor. There's no way you, as you are now, are the same as you were. Listen, only thing that people think about me is how I was 20-something years ago. They don't know me today. If they did know me, they think, oh, this is a boring-ass motherfucker. He is so boring. Why will, I don't want to hang out with him unless he's got some edge to him a little bit. I do have some rough edges, but you know what? I take my time to work on myself so that I don't act like everybody else in the world because I'm not of this world. You see what I'm saying, guys? That's why I was so uncomfortable being in the world, which is why I got arrested so many times, which is why I felt the need to drink myself into a blackout every single night, is because I was so uncomfortable being away from God's presence because all I wanted to do is do hood shit and getting fucking drunk every night that I couldn't even see the fact that he was literally with me the entire time. And that I didn't have to turn around and like scream and yell, hey, God, help me, I'm so far away. I literally turn around and he's here he's been like a hand on top of me. And some of you guys wondering, why is it that you only do, topics on family and, I can't see the world as any other way but as a giant military unit. I only see the world as I've seen it all of my adult life, as a military member in a military unit. Even after getting out, you go to the VA, you're all around military members using all the same language. And that same language is called the environment. That language that we are around all day, that is our environment. That is where kids learn to be good and kids learn to be bad. That's where adults learn to cheat, lie, steal, be a degenerate. And it's also where people learn to reflect and say, dude, don't tell us that shit because, dude, cheating on your wife is not cool. Okay? I know, but this ain't the day. All right, degeneracy is over. That shit is fucking not fly at all. Okay, it might have been fly at one time, be this Mr. fucking macho man womanizer, but that got us a lot of fucking problems. And yeah, it's cool because you could probably do it for a while, but at the end, it's nothing but problems. And you act psychopathically about it. I know I did. So when I say break free from degeneracy and stop lying, once you stop lying, you'll stop getting girls that lie. You'll stop getting girls that do every single mirror image thing bad that you don't want women to do to you. And suddenly you'll stop being the guy that does the things that attracts women that do bad shit to guys like us that very innocently want to hook up with the girl with the fattest ass. Now, I'm not wrong for saying that, because there are a lot of times that many of us have gotten into some deep, dark fucking places because a one-night stand turned into a 2-year fucking nightmare for some of us. And then some of us, a one-night stand turned to 18 years of child support. So let this be a lesson to you, okay? This whole hype about the eclipse is super, super, super cool if it played out that way. But I'm going to be the first to tell you that I got nothing on this. I got nothing. I have other shit that surrounds this. I mean, crash cargo boat, hacked inner, you know. So do yourself the solid that just pretend you're going to go camping, right? Just pretend you're going to go camp, because if they're going to do any kind of fuckery shit, it's going to be the water system. So if you have a ROPU unit, a reverse osmosis water purification unit in your house, I would recommend that you start loading up on the 5-gallon bottles, and then keeping those in a closet that's in a dark place. Probably wrap them up with some dark towels or something. Get some stuff that's blue that they put into water to kill bacteria. I don't know what the fuck it's called, but they put it in fish tanks too. But that's survival stuff to kill bacteria. And like I said, if anything happens, it's going to be the water system. You can live without fucking electricity. They just have to have water distribution. Water pumps are operated on diesel engines, okay? So if the electricity goes out, they run on diesel engines and have huge tanks. They're going to fill up all the elevated storage tanks. They're going to limit the amount of water people get. Okay, I'm a disaster preparedness motherfucker from the word go. So if anything's going to happen, it's going to be the water system. And that's my prediction for any serious next natural disaster that's going to affect you. Probably worse than anything at all. So what do you need? Okay, how many people in your house? You're going to do, figure that per month, you're going to need about 8 each. This is not to bathe. This is not to wash clothes in. This is not to brush your teeth. This is purely drinking water. And you're going to need 8 of those 5-gallon jugs per person per month. So you're going to need to be able to produce your own water, collect your own water, whether it be river water, stream water, pond water, if they haven't already sucked all the water off the fucking world, because that's what they do. They drain all the ponds, they drain all the rivers, they stop all the fucking water from going down when they do this kind of sabotage. So I'm telling you guys in advance to prepare in another place that has a working, livable area, that you have some form of protection. Bullets are not going to help you if there is a biological or chemical attack. A chemical attack could be as simple as that stupid fucking Chinese balloon that flew over the U.S. They could have filled those up with fucking fentanyl enough to fucking kill everybody. And yet, here we are. Nobody pays attention. I told you guys to get your passport in case. I told you before, yeah, man, come on down to Mexico just to live, change your life, have a better life. Then it was, yeah, come on down to Mexico, just take a vacation, look around, check things out. Then your passport, because it's probably a good idea. Then it's like, get your passport while you still can. Then it's like, I hope there's a closed loop fucking cruise that you could jump off the ship somewhere. Then it's at a point where no one's allowed to leave at all. Then it's at a point where everybody has to get on a bus and go somewhere they don't want to go to and wait. And that's for your safety, because there's no electricity and there's no water. So I predicted one thing that came true. And that was that the future of the school system would be, my best words, I was only a 20-something-year-old idiot, a jitterbug with a sweet tooth, you know what I mean? I thought that this future of schools would be parents homeschooling their kids, and we would be working from home somehow. I have invented the PDF, transferable PDF for maps and for plot plans and drawings. I invented that in 1994. So that instead of having to print out these maps, we came out with this CAD system that gave us the ability to copy and then put onto a disk a drawing that was then executable and also editable. This was in 1994 or 95, I think it was. And this was my plan was basically just to eliminate the need for long distance travel so that you could transfer ideas long distance. Now, we did have email system in the military. It's called the Wang system. The Wang system was developed in the 1940s for disaster, communication in between continents. In the event of a natural disaster, the phone lines went down and the power went out. That was called the Wang system. It's a computerized, basically, email system that us military guys used before the military allowed the civilian world to have email and things like that. That's what we used back in the day. So I was able to see behind the curtain a little bit. Now, that's not a big deal because other people in the military, civilians too, just using a Wang system to fucking order, $600 hammers and shit and parts. That's why we used the Wang system back in the day, because we didn't have internet, didn't have Windows and all that jazz. All this stuff I'm talking about was before any of us had the internet, before any of us had phones with cameras on them. Lucky enough I was able to, be able to find that exploit early on in the 90s, and I started opening up cell phone shops in 1995 when Deutsche Telekom had broken up its monopolies. And I opened up cell phone shops all over Germany. And I did them one at a time with no money and just a fucking brainiac ideas. Like, this is going to be the future. So I was able to spot trends as they started happening. And I could also predict when they would peak out. And then they would go down again. Now, somebody asked me about what I thought of the future of combustible engines. And it's going to be like Mad Max. Like I said, every single thing that is run off of combustible engines now can be converted into an electromagnetic and hydrogen-powered car. And you take that in two ways. The combustible engine is run off of hydrogen, the same way it's going off of the fumes of gasoline. The second part, and that's fuel injection. The second part is the mechanical aspect of it. That would be an analog mechanical system that runs off of electromagnets. Why analog, Bill? Because in a future of, Mad Max level fucking shit, you're going to have a way to have power and mechanics work together without using actual electricity or gasoline. So anything that operates on perpetual motion that they say does not exist can be operated off of inertia. Perpetual motion is not inertia. Inertia is nudges of power in one direction. Okay? Now, you cannot prolong that for very long because inertia means leaning into a corner of something like on a highway. And my ability, like I said before, is the thing that overcame inertia was four-way steering using air ride style shocks. Like I said, if you use these things and you were able to calibrate time, distance, elevation, high, low, all that stuff. I did this when I was 12 years old. This is easy, okay? All you have to use, open your eyeballs a little bit. You could change every tool in your tool bag for something that you could invent. Because why? Because we are they. Okay? And if it's just me, then it's just me. I am they. Okay? So call me they, fucking them, I guess. The motherfuckers that invent everything. You know what I'm saying, guys? It's like, who are they in the first place? You know what? Why not one day I hope they invent this? My motherfucker, well, I guess we are they. So, as you start to reflect on your spiritual life, you start to reflect on your moral attitude towards work, and you start to realize that if you have an ounce of fucking ethic in your work, you will be a millionaire. Because they're going to eliminate, and I said they again, they are. I just gave power to all these fucking people that I don't like, that don't like us. They have been planning for a long, long time. And I you know what? Who spilled the beans to me? Some dude in 1997 that was like really into conspiracy theories and Rush Limbaugh. And he gave me this book. It was called See, I Told You So. And I read that whole book and I was just glued to it. Rush Limbaugh was a genius when it came to writing. This book was about the Democratic Party being a Satanist party. And that this all being an atheist setup. And like no connections to like the Zionists or the Jews or Hamas or the banking system or the insurance, setup. The whole world is all about money. And regardless of the name that's behind it, it's always been about money. It's been about stolen money. It's been about money that has been stolen from places in the last civilization in form of gold and property that was mud flooded out at some point prior to the Americas being established. And they have gained power and money, and this has been worldwide, guys. Every single country, they have discovered barrels full of gold coins that came from the civilization that supposedly didn't exist. Now we're finding these buildings everywhere. Now we're finding these old writings everywhere. So I know they stole the gold from all these people, and I know that's why they became the elite. So all of their old money, that's where that comes from. These old world buildings that were discovered in the Americas that they just possessed. They turned them into like psych wards and insane asylums and orphanage. This is 7 stories with Gothic, Romanesque fucking style architecture, and yet there's not even 500 people living in this fucking town. So you follow what I'm saying, guys? Everything that we've been told has been bullshit because they wanted to cover this specific thing up. I think amongst other things, because if we knew about this one specific civilization, we would not be slaves to their system with electricity. We could cut every power line around our house right now and not be a slave to them ever again. Right like this. I do this. I take this stupid fucking thing right here, and I'm going to put this coil into the ground. I'm going to set off a tone by bells, which is why they got rid of all the fucking bells. They stole all the bells from every building because the bells and the buildings are the power source. Once the bell hits a frequency, the energy that is stored within the thick walls of these old buildings, which are, by the way, 4 feet thick, are giant batteries. And they produce electricity. Okay, that's why I fucking bought a castle. And then I found out after the fact that these castles were made of certain ingredients that absorb energy from the earth. And if you attach an antenna on the top, you collect energy from the ether, which is like electricity, which is stored into the walls of your fucking house. Which is why they could use radium for heat sources, because it would heat the whole house like a battery. Amazing, right? Well, they've gotten rid of the technology by using wars to blow the places up. They have invented fucking wars to cause chaos between races and between everybody in order to not give us enough information, at least to communicate with everybody else the shit that I'm talking about right now. The end of the civilization of the United States is not going to come because of a fucking eclipse. It's going to become of a very well planned out choices by leadership to not monitor the water system. Forget about environmental poisoning. Forget about, all that shit. Forget about icebergs and flooding. It will come in the form of poison. And that is the only way that they could do it without getting their hands dirty, and they can hide in little fucking bunkers and watch on the monitors from down below as they delete the entire world, and the whole damn thing goes down in flames. Now, so you guys know, I am not suicidal. I would never want to hurt myself. I'm only telling you guys what I have predicted 20-something years ago. 20-something years ago, at the same time I was predicting the use of the internet for schools and being able to use a computer at home, and your teachers would be your teacher. It would be beyond one step beyond homeschool, because the information would not be from the Rockefeller system. Instead, it would be from a system of math and logistics that requires hands-on training daily, like a trade school, in order to teach kids to read, write, and do math. I teach kids how to do math by teaching them how to count money. I teach kids percentages by teaching kids how to tip. I teach kids math by teaching them how to calibrate and do percentages, and to only do anything that would be considered a digital form of measurement. And the reason why physics are pushed down and fantasy is pushed up is partially because the useful idiots will eventually become useful warriors. Because if you could play a video game, pretty soon you'll be able to do anything with a drone. And that means sitting at your fat ass down in a bunker on a monitor and be able to operate a drone to fucking have a war. So, why I say this is because we're at the point now where we're at the end. We're at the very, very end of what it is that we used to think was the second part of the world. The first world we grew up in, that analog age is over. The digital age is almost over. We're going to do a reset. They're going to eliminate all the weak people, all the sick people, all the old people, probably the mentally ill people. So that includes us veterans too. If you got problems, that will include anybody that, and they'll probably make us do it to each other. If they can't convince, one civilization to knock out another, they're going to have us all delete each other. And if they're not that doesn't work, they're going to go straight, and at the end, it'll be about water. The answer is the one that will destroy the world will be the red dragon, whatever the fuck that means. So take this word with you and keep your eyes peeled for whatever the hell a red dragon is. The red dragon isn't the comet that's the devil comets. Okay, the red dragon would represent China. China is the producer of poisons in the world. So if they're going to do anything, it's going to be to use China as a scapegoat. It's not because China is doing it. China likes to make money. And right now, China's already produced and shipped enough fentanyl to kill everybody in the whole fucking world. With a few pop balloons over the fucking major cities. So follow me when I'm saying it's not going to be because of anything that happens to me. Eclipse is not going to be some spiritual fucking nightmare about to happen. If anything, they did it. Okay? And I hope this has all been fun and games. And I don't know anything, by the way, you guys. Every single thing that I've predicted so far has come true, and that's just the scratching of the surface. So I hope this helps you out. Maybe make a decision, get your ass over to the post office and get your passport. And that is all I have to say today, guys. I hope you have lots to think about now. I'm the Professor, and I'm out.